So with Street Cones, we say that it's not what you've done, it's what you can become. We use arts to help facilitate that road to change.
Like a dream from a wishing well, my trawler eyes take everything in wild. I'm walking down the snake path like a hypnotist under a spell. A break from the sadness, disconnection from madness. I leap from the noise, relief in the shadows, crying out for more, like a hungry child full of life, a mishand of smiles, blown away like the flame of a candle out again, deafened by silence, fragile and lonesome again. A break from the sadness, disconnection from madness. I leap from the noise, relief in the shadows. There's a hush to destroy. I leap from the noise.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name's Anna. I'm one of the Street Cones facilitators that's had the privilege of working with this group on one of our Road to Change workshops. So along with my fellow facilitator, Susie, we've spent 12 weeks with the participants who were referred to us by Aberdeenshire Unpaid Work. So for those that don't know us, we are Street Cones. We're a social enterprise and charity that uses the arts and creativity to affect positive change for individuals and groups we work with. The idea behind Road to Change is that we use creative exercises to give participants an opportunity to do some quite deep self-awareness work while tapping into their creativity in a safe and non-triggering space. Often our participants start off thinking that they're not creative, they've not done this stuff before, but we know from experience that everyone's creative. So this group, just like all our other groups, started with a completely blank page. And supported by us, they started to build fictional characters and story worlds, and different themes started to emerge organically. One of the main ones for this group was isolation, which has affected us all prior to and of course during this pandemic that's changed all of our lives. Our workshops have a range of safeguarding guidelines, one of which we refer to as the privileged environment. And this basically means that participants just use their first names. We don't deep dive into personal details and histories, so that when we're developing the script, it's done anonymously. We don't have to reveal the difference between what we are making up and what could actually be real. In a moment, you'll be shown a short film that'll showcase the end of module performance by this group and some of the discussion that followed. After that, I'll introduce you to our wonderful panelists, and you will get the chance to submit questions or comments. So you can start now if you'd like in the comments section on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter using @StreetCones, or by email direct to my colleague Mark on mark@streetcones.org. Jump straight in with the lovely Darren. So, yes, on you go, sorry.
Morning, Anna. Good morning, everybody. It's a genuine privilege to be asked to be part of this unveiling today. And what you're about to see in a short while is something that gives us a real insight into the thoughts, into the minds of the people who have put so much effort into preparing what we're about to see. It's really difficult to explain what you're about to see, and once you do get that opportunity in a couple of minutes, you'll understand where I'm coming from. Police Scotland are part of the Aberdeenshire Community Justice Partnership. And in that partnership, we all understand that community-based sentences are really important and vital. They allow people to remain in the community with some of the protective factors around about them, such as friends, such as family, with the support. And if that's not in place, it allows them to develop friendships and relationships through meeting services, other people in a similar position, and create those networks around about them. Community payback is one of the most common sentences in Aberdeenshire, and within that we see unpaid work as one of those. Traditionally, that's where groups of people would, for instance, get collected in a van and dropped off to do a work-based activity, whilst there was support put in place around about them to address some of the issues, or help address some of the issues that may be real for that person. COVID has impacted on us all, but it really impacted on this really important piece of work. It became a real challenge, and the Community Justice Partnership had to think about doing new things and creating new ways of working with people that was importantly meaningful. Street cones fitted this bill. It allowed people to come on board and take part in activity and take part in the arts, something that many people never had that chance to do before. So the first street cone session ran between January and April of this year, and that was a real success. This module's allowed the participants to explore issues real to them, and we'll see just shortly isolation, stigma, judgment, all being addressed in such a creative way. So why am I here? Why are the police involved? Well, we are a key partner within the Community Justice Partnership. But personally, I'm here because for 24 years I've been at that front enforcement end, and what I've seen is repetitive cycles of offending, and it's been really sad to see people come through our system and come back into that system. But the Community Justice Partnership in Aberdeenshire has been really effective in breaking that cycle. So the police work with our partners to help design services, help design pieces of work that really breaks that cycle. For me, Street Cones delivers what it's set out to do. And what you'll see is it's going to give us all something to reflect on. And importantly, it's given the participant new skills. So I'm going to pass back to Anna.
And so, without any further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you Dolphins Give the Best Advice. Along with my fellow facilitator, Susie, we have spent 12 weeks with these participants who were referred to us by Aberdeenshire Unpaid Work. So, for those of you that don't know Street Cones, we are a charity that uses the arts and creativity to effect positive change for the individuals and the groups that we work with. The idea behind these Road to Change workshops is that we give participants an opportunity to do some quite deep self-awareness and exploration in a safe space, using fiction as our safety net and tapping into their creativity. So often our participants start off thinking that they're not creative, but we know from experience that that is just not the case. We are all creative, and you'll definitely see that today. So with this group, the theme really, after such an awful time, such isolation, we really wanted to do a deep dive into the different faces of loneliness.
The fire was exactly where it belonged. You should never be with someone if you can't truly be yourself with them. You'll be more lonely than you ever were single. You don't know how lucky you are at your age.
we've really enjoyed sort of using the street cones for helping people and supporting them get through some of their unpaid work hours. Obviously with COVID restrictions, I guess preventing us from being able to do some of the unpaid work with people over the last year, we've found different ways to work through some of the other unpaid work hours and the other activity hours attached to that. So this has been a great opportunity, and I believe it's kind of supported people, find a bit of confidence, and it's just been great. We've loved sort of being part of it and watching everybody.
Time. I haven't got anyone. That's hard.
But you've got all the opportunities. I was so desperate for someone to take me. I married the first girl to dance with me at a ceilidh.
And so our workshops operate under different safeguarding guidelines, and one really important one is called the privileged environment. And what that basically means is that participants just use their first names, and we ask that no personal histories are shared. So while they create these characters and these worlds, they don't reveal the difference between what they're making up and what could be real.
Kind of amazing to sit here and listen and kind of really understand the amount of work that must have went on to kind of reading through the script, and kind of Chris, Philippe and Tony, it's no easy task for anyone. It would be really difficult for anyone, I'm sure, to sit down and learn a script and read through when you're live on kind of many social media platforms as you are. And just the courage and kind of the strength that it takes to do something like that is really, really inspiring.
They always say, start a speech with a joke. So, here's a good one. Why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the shop. I know, it's not very funny, is it? Well, it wasn't very funny for the chicken either. The shop was shut.
40 hours a week, 47 weeks a year, 25 years of my life sitting in a crane cab all alone. Lift the box, move the box, place the box, lift another. While other people were celebrating promotions, I was celebrating staying on the wagon.
Yeah, I think that one of the challenges I had was basically being able to sort of get all the information and research I was learning about the subject and be able to correlate that and feed that back to the workshops, and sometimes other priorities got in the way of doing that, and it would have been a lot. I would have liked to have sort of been able to sort of present more sort of statistics and information of what's really happening within loneliness within the UK at the moment.
But the more time I spend alone, the less I feel like myself. I don't know why it's so hard to talk to people, but it just gets harder. I always just feel like I never fit in. Makes it hard to actually get close. Sometimes I feel like I'm no good enough for anyone, because I'm so different, you know?
Stephen nods, quiet.
Well, I think with COVID, I think also there are parts of us where we are effectively lonely from time to time. And it was extremely important, we felt, that it says it all about the whole play. You're not alone. And we decided to go on to these charities and telephone numbers of groups and associations who can help you. It's open to men, women, no creed, nothing, no judgment, totally unjudgmental. And I think it's very important for people to say there is help out there, and do not hesitate to use that. Much better for everybody.
seem like you have a lot of frustration. Things are hard for you right now, but maybe it'd be easier if you could let go of the pressure. It's the same pressure I always felt. Fuck the world and fuck the expectations. Fuck the job, fuck the wife, fuck the 2.5 kids. If you don't figure out who it is that you want to be, you'll never stop feeling alone.
That's easy for you to say. You had all that. You had a job. You could buy your house. You had someone to sleep beside you. I get the whole find yourself and you'll always have a friend thing, but self-love doesn't pay my rent.
Look, some things in life are more important.
I'm trying to change, but I've just not had the chance. This was my chance.
It fell through. He didn't even bother telling me outright. He just stopped answering my calls. My celebration beers became my knockback beers. My mum could hear the alcohol in my voice.
You know, I'd love to go to college, Ma. You know what it's like, though? All those people, my anxiety. What if it's like being back at school again, yeah? You know how messed up that got me.
I think that loneliness is something that touches a lot of men and a lot of people in their lives, and it's quite a difficult situation to get out of, difficult to talk about, but at meetings like we've had where we're doing a script, it gives us a chance to address emotions like that, which can be quite difficult. And I'd just like to thank you all again for a wonderful experience.
I've never worked together before. You've come together and produced this, collectively, and it's just so powerful, so really, just so current and so relevant at the moment for folks that are going through, everything with COVID and. Even now, that the kind of hopefully the worst of it's over, there's still lots of people that are affected by loneliness, and just the way that you worked together and came up with such an impressive script, you should be really, really proud of yourselves. I'm really proud of you. I know my colleagues are as well.
I would just like to say that I don't do public speaking, full stop. But something special's happened before tonight's come about.
We're talking about people who have never met.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about people that might have worked together before or prior to that. In our case, it's people who have never met and had to jail over 12 weeks to finish a piece of work that everybody said it was quite good. And I do believe, by the way, the play was quite good because the play was meaningful. And I think that's also a tribute to those who felt that they were not up to it, or really, I don't know. It's been done at a good standard, in my opinion, from people that I've never met before, and they had 12 weeks to write something. I think that takes a biscuit personally. I think that's well done to people,
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Well, as I said, we do have our resident script expert here with us today. So, Tony, it is absolutely lovely to have you here. Tony was one of the participants in this group. So, would you like to fill our audience in a wee bit more on the characters and the arcs that they had, the journeys they had in this script that came really just from you and the group?
I think more than anything else, it was sort of being in an environment where it was a creative environment where it was safe, and it was very much sort of brainstorming ideas and developing ideas, but also being able to sort of be aware of certain issues and be able to go and do research yourself and then bring it back and ideas. It was just a big part, and I really enjoyed the people I met and the process. I was a bit apprehensive at first. But once I got into working with people, we had a really good banter and a good laugh, and it was sort of broke out the sort of normality of my normal life, and it was a great honour to be a part of it, really, and to see it come through, and the fact that it's going to be of some benefit to other people, which is great.
Absolutely, thank you, Tony.
Yeah, in terms of the characters, it was very much some people would come into the project and only spend a very little amount of time because of their commitments, but overall it was pretty good, really good experience. Yeah,
fantastic. And so, could you introduce the characters to us? It's been a few weeks now. What their names were, sort of their rough background.
The characters for what we do is we change the roles each week. So once Anna developed the plot, then we could all sing off the same choir sheet, for want of a better term. The characters are between the younger gentleman and the older gentleman. They're sort of, we're in two different worlds, but because they were in two different worlds, all of a sudden with the meeting there was that cross fertilization where they could change each other's mindsets, and I think that's the one thing that's been very, very advantageous for me, and I'm sure it is for other people, and that is that it's good to change your mindset and listen to other people's opinions and experiences to go forward in a positive way yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great for the script to reflect the reality, as Darren said, and like I said before, to do it in this safe space where we're not bringing our own personal histories into it. We have this world that we've created, and that's what can speak for us.
And I think also as well the fact that it was locally based, the idea of where the plot sort of came about, so a lot of people could relate to it because it was local landmarks and experiences. And I dare I say there was quite a few sort of bizarre ideas that eventually we have to open discussion we had to throw away because they were a bit outside the box, but I quite enjoyed that.
Absolutely. You need the wild and wacky ideas as well as the more sensible ones. That's what gives you a good balance. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Tony. Amazing.
I mean, one last point I'd like to say is that personally myself, it was the process that was more important than the actual product. I felt that I got more out of the process than actually the end result. Personally myself, having the opportunity to meet such an amazing amount of people.
Fantastic. Well, we will hear more from you, Tony, definitely, but I would like to open up to the rest of the panel and introduce them too. So we have Craig McGrory, who is team manager from Aberdeenshire Unpaid Work. Hi, Craig. How are you doing this morning?
Yes, I'm very well, Anna. Thank you very much. But it's nice to be part of this project and just echo what Darren was saying, and kind of across Aberdeenshire, the benefits of street cones kind of supporting and facilitating people to complete hours of unpaid work kind of has been tremendous for us throughout this kind of pandemic period.
Absolutely. Thank you, Craig. And next on the panel, we also have Jeff Shaw, who is the Mental Health and Learning Disability Manager with Aberdeenshire Health and Social Care Partnership. Hello, Jeff. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Morning, Anna.
Morning. Lovely. We have Tony, as I've introduced before. And of course, we still have Darren Bruce, Inspector at Police Scotland. So, first question. We have a question from Kathleen Mowat via email. She would like to ask Tony, what were your best and worst experiences in the workshop?
I think Worst experience was having technical difficulties with my kit breaking down and internet, etc. So that's the worst. I think the best has probably got to be just looking forward to doing the event every week and getting into a routine. Really, that's what I enjoyed. It was something to look forward to, and also able to sort of do research into the area of loneliness and think to myself, how's that affecting my life? It's almost like an issue that's not being talked massively within society at the moment, which I think is important, that it should be.
Absolutely, yeah. I remember you were very passionate, Tony, about making sure we covered the issues, because it's so incredibly important. Thank you.
It is.
Next up, we have a question from Janice Hutchison via Twitter for Jeff. And it's a tricky one there, potentially, Jeff. She is asking, we all know the pandemic has increased numbers of people who are socially isolated. Are there any estimated figures for Aberdeenshire or for Scotland? If you've got any, Andy.
If it helps, we thank you for the question, first off. We have seen an increase of around about 25% on mental health referrals. I think it's complicated from the point of view of there is a difference between significant mental illness, which to an extent specialist teams are geared to manage and to support people with, and then there's a difference between what we might want to call mental effect, or the effect of a situational crisis or a situational circumstance that then has at times a time limited impact upon what we might want to call mental well-being. So I would say that everybody in the UK has potentially had their mental well-being affected, and elements of that demonstrate itself through increased loneliness or isolation or anxiety. And I know that Darren and police colleagues have had to manage increased contacts to police officers through folks feeling anxious. We are addressing that. We have more staff available and are building more capability and capacity in. So what I would say is, on an individual basis, please do not feel alone, and please do not feel that nobody cares, because there are lots of people out there that care. There are lots of services available to folk, and I hope that answers the question.
I'm sure it does. It's definitely very informative. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Anna, just as a signposting exercise, there is both on the council and NHS websites, there are details of a support hub that people can self-refer to. So there is no reason for people not to be able to seek help. And again, there are national charities. There is significant. There's the Samaritans, there's SAMH, there are Living Life. There's a significant number of support networks out there. So I wouldn't want people going away thinking that there's nothing there and there's nothing for them. Sorry, I wanted to add that in because I think that was important.
It's very important, absolutely. In fact, Tony, do you want to speak a little bit about, unfortunately, we didn't see in the video, but it was very important for the group to include signposting for mental health support groups at the end of the script. Would you like to mention a little bit about that, maybe, Tony, about wanting to give people real world links?
I think that at the end of the day, it's about actually communication. I think that even if meeting someone on the street you've never spoke to, having the confidence to speak to someone really in the street, and then just build up that. I think that's critical. I think in the days we live now, where a lot of people are doing social media, that's not actually having a really positive effect on dealing with loneliness. And I think it's more, as a human species, we're sociable by nature. So if we don't deal with the issues or seek resources of the issues, and I'm a great believer that half the problem is identifying a problem. If you can identify it, then at least you can put action in place. And if you don't and just keep on ignoring it, then there's going to be long-term effects on your mental well-being and your physical health as well. It's a known fact that it costs the UK state up to the tune of £3.2 billion per year, an estimation of what loneliness can do in terms of damage to local economies, and also to people within society.
Absolutely, thank you. And I think what the script does well to address as well, and some of the links at the end, is to dispel this idea that you have to be absolutely in the worst possible state of your life in order to get help. And some of these links at the end, you know, it says, if you're just struggling a little bit, if you're just not where you need to be, you are allowed to ask for help. You should ask for help. You don't have to be in what you might consider a crisis. So that's great to know.
The one thing I did like about the plot is that the way that two people had just met, and basically at the first they have a bit of a discussion over their music, and all of a sudden they realise that I've got common ground. I think everybody's got common ground and experiences to share with other people and wisdom to pass on, and I think it's a very, very important part in society for people to communicate more.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. All right, we're getting loads of fantastic questions in, so I'm going to move over to the next one. So we have a question from Willie Constance for Craig via YouTube. And Willie is asking, do the participants do this and also the other usual types of unpaid work? Do participants get to choose what type of stuff they do, or is it compulsory?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I can answer that one. It's quite relatively straightforward. We have, across Aberdeenshire Council and the Health and Social Care Partnership, we've got many different ways and many different avenues for people to complete unpaid work. I think, again, Darren touched on earlier on the kind of more traditional ways where people would be loaded up into a van and taken away somewhere to pick up litter or clean leaves out of drains. Kind of that type of work does still happen. Although we have kind of created over the years kind of several different ways, be that kind of individual placement settings that people can go and complete hours of unpaid work in local charity shops or food banks, places such as that. We have quite a bit of kind of workshop-based activities and home working tasks. We're currently, over the last kind of year, we've been making lots of kind of bird boxes and bug hotels and planters that we then donate to kind of a lot of primary schools take our planters, and the primary school kids use them to plant flowers and vegetables and do activities at school. So that's another avenue. And I suppose we've introduced street cones where kind of we will sit down with people subject to unpaid work and have conversations with them, see how they feel about engaging in it. The majority of people, I think it's safe to say, are quite kind of skeptical of it, or I think terrified and scared. Beneath that would be the emotion that's going on for most people when we first kind of pitch street cones to them. And kind of people will take that kind of leap of faith and courage and get involved in it. But it is a voluntary kind of, it's not mandatory that people must kind of get put through the route of street cones. It's mandatory that people must complete their hours of unpaid work. But like I described, we've got kind of many different ways in which to target that based on people's kind of needs and responsivity issues that may prevent them from doing the more traditional type work. So yeah, I think that's answered it. The short answer is no, it's not mandatory, and we don't force people to do it. We always give people that option, and we like to have willing participants to kind of help the engagement process.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of healthy skepticism, being a little bit unsure, but we like to think that it all works out in the end. Tony, maybe you can speak to that. How did you feel at the start when you were offered a space on the workshops, and how did you feel at the end?
At the start, it was I was a bit sort of nervous, a bit apprehensive about it, because I've been one of these people that have sort of avoided. I never was a part of the Zoom revolution, and I've sort of stayed away from the technology, even though I used it in business in the mid-90s. But once I got over that hurdle, it was great to just interact with the people, and it gets back to building up your social skills and skills of interacting with the people, but also having the ability to be able to take a step back and let other participants put their input in rather than just one person dominate or a small group of people dominating. I thought that was very critical. But I totally enjoyed it. And it was good to listen to other people's stories as they went along. It was I got quite a lot from that in terms of personal development.
Absolutely. It's community payback, but I like to think that our workshops themselves are a little community in themselves too. Lovely.
Yeah.
So we have another question from Elizabeth Wright on Twitter for Jeff. And she is asking, there are many reasons for isolation, but what can be done to help people in these situations?
That's a good question. And I may need help from other panel members to give it a complete answer. I guess from a mental well-being point of view, then folks that engage with people who feel isolated can help by supporting them to reach out to other folk. And I think there's it's about sometimes helping people to take that first step. So it's often confidence building, and it's something called motivational input. And that's across the board. I think we all at times struggle. I know I put pounds on during the lockdown period because I couldn't be motivated to get out and run and go to the gym or exercise or even go for a walk at times. So nobody's immune from it. And I think it's about having gentle conversations and supporting people so that they make the decision. The more people told me I was looking fatter, bigger, plumper, lots and lots of words were used, the more actually I resisted, and probably the more chocolate I ate just to show them that they weren't going to force me to do something. Then there came a point at which I then sat, and I think it's easier to sometimes illustrate these points by using yourself, because it's not about other people, it's about you. And then I did then get up, and thankfully, particularly on the video, I'm thinking, well, I do look slightly slim, and the folks here all chuckle that have known me for a while. I managed to get back to the gym for the last few months, and I feel better for that. So I think it's then incrementally building upon mental well-being. It's recognizing where somebody's at and not asking them to come to you, but often you going to them. Because it's too much of an effort for them to come to you. It's too big a mountain to climb at that point, and people need help. And then if you take a mountain climbing analogy, it's about building camps, base camp, camp 1, camp 2, camp 3, and not trying to get to the top all at once. So that would be my approach. And I think that's how we should reach out to people who are feeling lonely. We shouldn't force issues. People sometimes build loneliness as a psychological defense. And the loneliness could be a byproduct of something that's significant, like a bereavement or a loss, or blocking out people reaching in when somebody's got domestic violence issues. So we shouldn't jump to conclusions about why somebody's choosing to be lonely. Sometimes it's not a choice, and sometimes there are controlling elements in there. And it's about, I suspect, being sensitive, open, and able to communicate with folks to understand what the drivers are that keep people at that in that place, and then doing the positive things to help them move on. But I've probably said enough, and I'm happy to open it out to other colleagues on here, Darren and co, who will have other valuable viewpoints on how we combat loneliness.
Absolutely. Maybe Darren, I think we've not heard from you in a wee while. Have you got anything to add from your perspective on loneliness in the community and the things that we can do to help?
Absolutely. I think, the panel members here today work for organisations, and organisationally we all have a role to play in trying to combat loneliness. We can all do our little bit within, the police, for instance. We're out and about, then we should be speaking to people in the street. If we're at that call involving domestic violence, then of course, if we're seeing social isolation as a thing, then we should be trying to help and guide people towards the help that they might need. But doing exactly what Jeff did just now, and taking it into my own context, it's probably easier, and that's why Jeff will have done it. And for people to understand if they can see things in their own personal life context. Now, I was going to work, the role I did meant that I was fortunate enough to leave the house every day, and I wasn't isolated. I was meeting people every day. But when I came home at night, I wanted to shut my door and shut myself off from everybody else, just because the situation we all found ourselves in. I didn't want to be that go-to person when I was at home. I didn't want to have the social interaction. Now, I had to challenge myself to go and do that when a very close friend of mine was actually going through a separation, had been on his own for quite some time, and I was an awful friend. I sparked that kind of connection again, got back in touch. Now we're communicating. I hope it was of some benefit to him, but it was of great benefit to me, actually having that social interaction. So I suppose what I'm saying is, it benefits us all. We're social beings. If you've got that neighbour up the road, and it's the same advice that we've given every winter for many years, because it's true. If you've got that neighbour or person up the road that you haven't seen, go and bash on the door and say, "You all right?" Go and drop off, a packet of biscuits, for instance. We all have that role to play, and it's not one thing, one system, or one organisation can fix. It's a societal community thing that we've got to come together on.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point, Darren. Thanks so much.
It is.
Definitely. I think to add to that from my context as well, the work we do here at Street Cones, we don't have this hierarchy. In the workshops, everyone is an equal, everyone's contributing. And as far as the social isolation went, in the deep, dark depths of a pandemic winter, being able to log on and meet with other people for myself was incredibly valuable. So, it's not even just the participants. Everyone involved, I think, gets to benefit from forging these kind of little communities and having that interaction. Craig, would you like to add anything on loneliness from your side of things?
Yeah, I think I would really just echo. I think kind of just coming back to that, it's everybody's responsibility to check in on kind of your nearest and dearest, and even people that are a bit further removed, and kind of whether it's kind of certainly, I don't know if it's a male thing or it's a human being thing, but like Darren was just describing, I can be as guilty as the next one of kind of month upon month can go past and I've not really spoken to many of my friends. I'm in a very fortunate position. I have a family round about me that I live with, so I don't have that kind of isolation at home. But there can be long periods of time go past where I haven't checked in, haven't spoken to you, haven't touched base with kind of anyone really outside my immediate family. And just reaching out and just asking somebody how they are, asking somebody to meet up to go for a coffee, asking somebody to go out for a game of golf or go to the football, whatever it may be that your interests are, kind of could just be that very thing that helps to motivate that person that might be finding it difficult and might be having a hard time kind of sitting at home. So I think that would be my advice. Just if there's anybody that you know of that you've not spoken to for a while, maybe just reach out, send them a wee message, just saying hi, how are you doing? And sometimes it can be that simple things is kind of all it takes.
Absolutely. That's a great piece of advice, Craig. Thank you so much. Before we move on to the next question, Tony, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any other bits of advice or things you've learned through the experience?
No, I agree with Craig. I think that it's important to, during doing street codes and after street codes, I've been more reflective and thinking about how I can actually help people out, even the simplest little thing. But sometimes people don't ask for help, so you've got to be not too pushy about it, but sort of like be diplomatic about it. And sometimes you realise that people do suffer, and they don't answer, they don't ask for any help. And if you can identify that and get them to come out of their shell, I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. I think there's a great thing in the script that the group created that you'll hopefully see in the video, where these two characters are so determined to fix each other and they're both so resistant to that, but it's in the end that they both discover really that if they just kind of stopped trying to fix other people and, you know, listened and took their own advice sometimes, that can help as well. Fantastic. So next up, we have a question from Justin Eade for Tony and myself, wanting to know, how do the participants and facilitators feel about the anonymity that comes with the Street Cone's privileged environment? So the no sharing of personal details and things. Tony, do you want to kick us off there?
I think the anonymity is very important, personally myself, because it makes you feel a lot safer in that environment. And by being safer, you can be more open and be more creative and participate within the workshop. And some cases I found within the workshop, there were certain people that were just not participating as much as they could because they didn't have the sort of confidence as I was talking about earlier. But once you gave them the space, then they came out and sort of gave really good contribution to the project.
Absolutely. I think it's really valuable, especially everyone, I think, in life feels judged to some extent, sort of that irrational sense that everyone else is looking at what you're doing and they know things and they're judging you for them. So I think the fact that so many participants come in and they're surprised that we don't ask what they've done, and it's that relief that they get to just come in as a person, as a human, as a participant, and not as a criminal and not as someone that has done X. And they get to just be in the room the same as anyone else. And I think that's incredibly valuable. It's good for breaking down that stigma even for themselves a lot of the time. So I think that anonymity, and I think there's a line in the script as well. I think both of the characters in the script mention that they've been on a CPO before. They've been given an unpaid work order. And there's a line at the end where one of the characters says, you know, you're the first person that's heard that and not asked me what I've done. And the other guy goes, well, you've not asked me either. And that's it. It's just that moment of that not dictating your life, which I think is one of the great strengths of a community payback order. All right, so next up we have an anonymous question / comment via email. And this person is saying, I have a difficult domestic situation and have little contact with friends or family. The situation really isn't anything to do with the pandemic, but I guess this person's maybe looking for a little bit of advice on ways of getting into the community, ways of getting a bit that social connection. Maybe Jeff, do you have any thoughts?
I think the first thing to do is, thank the anonymous person for being brave and putting in a question to the panel. I think the second thing is to acknowledge that clearly that's taken a lot of courage to do that, and very difficult without additional information to know specifically what to say, other than there are agencies out there, and Darren will speak on this, I suspect, in a minute. There are certainly support networks and help networks and confidential help networks and confidential helplines that are probably the best place to start in relation to the domestic situation, because it's important that we recognize that violence towards any human being is unacceptable, and that includes physical, emotional, etc., etc. And then to say that those qualified, skilled individuals that operate helplines and are available, both they would enable the support to be tailored to that person's individual needs. So I think it's really, really important, and it may well be that others on here could maybe put a list of those agencies, help agencies, on at some point, and I think it's very, very important to broadcast that and to have that information available, so that people don't, again, it's an extension to the loneliness bit. If people feel isolated, then they feel trapped. If people feel trapped, then they feel powerless. And an element of this is actually to support people to discover their power again, to discover that they are not alone, and to discover that actually they can be heard and there are people out there prepared to support and help them. I'm very happy to hand over to Darren or other folks now, because they may have some specific advice about this situation. But on a general basis, I would say, please do not tolerate it. There are people out there to help, and please be motivated to do something about it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. I'll pass over to you then, Darren, if that's okay with you.
Again, just to echo what Jeff has said, it's very brave to reach out and share what's going on. Jeff is right. We will post some details of some national support agencies on the chat that you can pick up and communicate with, either anonymously or if you want to give your details. And equally, I'm happy to be contacted via Street Cones or any contact you want to have with them. The important thing is, where you are, there will be a local support network in place to help with advice for domestic abuse. Now, that local service will know the landscape of other support agencies available to you in that area. If you are comfortable, you could contact Police Scotland on 101, where we can offer advice on your specific situation if you were to explain what's going on. Now, of course, that would mean letting us know who you were so we could direct the right help and guidance towards you. But as I say, we will post those details on at the end of this. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, just to echo Jeff as well, thank you for sending that in. Thank you for reaching out. It's a good thing to be doing, and we will get those links up. And I can't say for sure about the specific links that we've sent, but I know for a lot of people, speaking on the phone can be quite stressful. But a lot of organisations now have web chat, they have text services. If it feels like too much to pick up a phone and make a phone call, then there will be other ways for you as well. And similarly, for people feeling loneliness and things, don't feel like your situation has to be bad enough. You have to feel bad enough. You know, even if you think, oh well, maybe if you feel like you need any support whatsoever, reach out. Absolutely. Thank you again. Okay, so we have another question now coming in from Natasha, a criminal justice social worker in Aberdeenshire, via email. And she would like to ask Tony what advice you would give people that were offered a place on a workshop.
I think that the advice I can give to people is that give it a go. You've got nothing to lose. Sometimes you have to step outside your comfort zone, but once you get into it and meet people and start getting involved with it, you get addicted to it. I think to a certain extent, because it's a social activity, and I do live on my own, so it sort of identified certain problems within that, within being lonely. But to answer the question, I think that people should just give it a go, just have a try. They'll be amazed what rewards they can get from it at the end of the project. Don't be scared.
Thank you so much. Absolutely, we're not that scary, I promise.
Exactly.
Amazing. Craig, do you maybe want to say a little bit about that? What's your experience of seeing people going through street cones? Would you have any advice maybe for something about it?
Yeah, I think, like I spoke about it earlier, I think when we first raised the subject of street cones with the majority of people, they're kind of quite resistant to it at times, and I think it's a combination of feeling a bit fearful, a bit intimidated, a little bit out of their depth. Kind of the majority of our clients and our service users maybe don't come from an arts background, and the thought of kind of getting involved in that creative arts kind of sector kind of is daunting for them. But I think the benefits of it, like Tony just touched on there, we see people coming out the other side, and I know traditionally kind of there is some traditional views around unpaid work and what people subject to community payback orders should be doing, and perhaps Street Cones doesn't tick many of those boxes. However, kind of the bigger picture for us, it's about kind of reducing the risk of further offending behaviour and protecting the public and keeping communities safe. And I think the byproduct of Street Cones, once people have went through the process, is the difference in somebody's self-esteem and their self-worth and their confidence and how they value themselves as a person. They are kind of got far better skills in order to kind of be a productive member of their local communities, to interact with that communities, to be a meaningful part of society, to kind of improve job prospects, to improve confidence when it comes to interview skills. So all that kind of internal byproducts that somebody will gain through participating in Street Cones will kind of definitely stand them in good stead to then go on and make more pro-social choices in their life and reduce the risks of them falling back in offending behaviour. Because kind of they'll just have far better opportunities and skills and the way they feel about themselves and confidence in order to do so. So yeah, the difference is kind of, I mean, you guys, the facilitators and Street Cones, will have seen it kind of more than I have, but just from the guys from Aberdeenshire that have went through it that I'm aware of, and the feedback that we get is kind of that would be the biggest difference in just kind of confidence and self-worth and self-esteem stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Craig. Yeah, we see such journeys, such incredible journeys through these 12 weeks on these modules, and it is great to see. You can see exactly why when you're in the room we do these kind of things. Jeff, do you have anything to add maybe on the impact of the arts on well-being and things like this, how that can benefit people?
Yeah, I guess to an extent, I'm very much a what would be termed a solution-focused practitioner. So when I practice, and it's not that often these days because unfortunately management duties take up most of my time, there are certain golden rules I live by. You know, one is that go with what works, and that may sound very, very simple, but too many times I always illustrate this when I'm talking to people. They do what I call the car won't start in the morning trick. So if a car doesn't start, stop turning the engine over, because what happens is you then run the battery down. When the battery's run down, you've now got two problems. So you've got the initial problem because the car wouldn't start, and now you've got a flat battery. So what I would say is when you're seeking support, seek what works and then do it. Too many times people start to argue with those who are giving them sound advice. And I would also, that brings me to another point in relation to psychological therapies and psychological therapy interventions. The research suggests that you can achieve success with a number of modalities, and that the primary factor in most of the psychological therapy intervention is the therapist. So if you have confidence in the person that you're working with, or you have confidence in that friend, you are more likely to pick up and do that. So the two bits I suppose to take away from this is do more of what's successful, do less of what's not successful, stop doing it and try something new. And then the other one is go to those people who are supportive. Don't go to those people who are not. There's a very simple question to ask sometimes when you're doing solution-focused intervention, and it's, normally you go, normally people expect you to ask, who's going to be most surprised when you're successful? And actually solution-focused intervention, solution-focused therapy says, turn that around and say, who's going to be least surprised? And often people say, mum will be least surprised. Then go to mum, because she's your biggest supporter. She's your biggest support network. If it's dad, go to dad. If it's your brother, go to your brother. This isn't a battle. You're not showing somebody that you can do this, because it's for you. And on the basis of that, then there's simple things, the simple building blocks of, do not medicalize everything, because the medical profession is very, very good and can help with certain things. But actually, the medical profession can't fix everything. So elements of this are about actually taking the human condition and being a human being and allowing people to support you. Because more often than not, we build barriers and we build walls. and we stop people from reaching in. And that goes the other way, because that's also about being respectful of that when you're trying to help somebody. And actually, sometimes you don't want to kick that wall down. You actually might want to send a letter or a text as a first contact, because that's gentle and it's where the person can respond in their time. So I'm often more enthusiastic for people to become well or to become more confident than they are. And I have to remember that and go at their pace, not mine. So be driven by your pace, not by somebody else's. I hope I've tried to get all the sparkly moment gem, because that's another term that we use in solution focused thinking. All those sparkly moments, look for them. Look for the difference that makes a difference, and then do more of it. And it's very, very simple, and it's quite basic. It's not magical. By the same token, it works. And that's the invite I would have to people, is to seek and do what works. Hope that sums up, I guess, in a matter of minutes. That normally takes like half a day or a full day's worth of training. But I've tried to condense it all into. There's a man called Fletcher Peacock, who did a lot of solution-focused training, thinking. And he says, and again, hold this with you if you remember nothing else from today that I've said, because I'm pretty boring most of the time. But remember this: water the flowers, not the weeds. And if you hold on to that, it's very, very important, because too many times people tend to the weeds. They water the weeds and then they wonder why the garden's full of weeds. And what Fletcher Peacock says is water the flowers, because it's the flowers that actually bloom, and it's the flowers that give the fragrance, and it's the flowers that make life worth living. Doesn't mean that you can have ugly weeds, and that's okay. But the point is, what he's trying to say there is, in life, water the flowers. And I'll leave that thought with you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Amazing. I'm very glad that this is going to be available to watch again, because I will be watching it again with my notepad and making some notes for myself. That's some excellent points and some excellent advice. Thank you so much. On one last note around that point, I suppose, Darren, do you maybe want to come in and say what you've seen from people who go through these sort of more community-focused community payback orders? Because it's relatively recent, isn't it, in the grand scheme of things?
I think they are relatively recent, although in Aberdeenshire, in fact Scotland, we've had community sentences for longer than a lot of other countries, and they are really successful, because the route of sending everyone into jail just isn't the answer. What that does, it actually destroys networks, it destroys entire families, and it's not proportionate. So you often hear about, oh, we should pop somebody in the jail and throw away the key. That's absolutely not the answer, and it doesn't fix the issues in society that we might have. In fact, it makes things far worse. For me, the community sentencing, it does exactly what it's advertised to do. It works with people in the communities to keep that strong support networks that they may already have in place. The important thing is, as we know, as we start to, as a society, understand stigma, is that community sentences do so much to help that. They mean that people can carry out a bit of reparation in the community, not only to pay back the community, but to give themselves that feeling that, I maybe did wrong, but now I've done right. But the anonymity that comes with it means that people don't know, people can't judge for something that the rest of society should be judging them on. I hope that goes some way to answer it, Anna. I suppose what I need to say is that community sentences are good, they are proportionate, there is a place for them, and at the other end of the scale, we can't be putting everybody into custody. That's not the answer to fixing things. And I don't like the word fixing, because that suggests everything's broken.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. It's great to hear the root of community payback orders and why they're so important, the things that we do as well as the things that other places and other organizations are doing. I've got a question from Ronnie Cook via YouTube. I think perhaps for Tony might be good to start this one off. So Ronnie is asking, if participants aren't interested in pursuing acting or writing as a hobby or career, then what's the point of attending these workshops?
I think that attending these workshops is the issue that the people have mentioned, and that is that it's about confidence, it's about interaction with people, it's about making that step, it's being able to listen to other people's opinions, it's about sort of personal development, and also doing a bit of self-analysis yourself, to look at where you could go in your life. And I think it's great to have that escapism where you've got that safe environment to be creative. And if you haven't got the skills of writing, or you haven't got the skills of where you haven't had a role in society where you have to be customer facing, for example, or talking to a lot of people, then you don't realize what your potential could be until you've tried it. So I think that if you haven't got any skills whatsoever, just give it a go, because you will develop skills then.
Absolutely, I love that. You don't know what skills you've got until you've tried them. Excellent. Yeah. Craig, do you have anything to say maybe on some of the transferable skills that people maybe find, some of the other outcomes they have other than just going into the arts?
Yeah, most definitely. You may not have any interest in pursuing a career in the arts or writing or filmmaking or kind of more of that creative kind of lines of work. You may not have any interest in doing that as a hobby either, but I think the benefits that you will get is that interaction with other human beings, kind of breaking that social isolation. I think Tony's already mentioned today that kind of living on his own, it was one of the kind of highlights of his week. It was something to look forward to. It gave him a sense of purpose, something to get up in the morning for. And kind of all these things kind of are great for just your well-being. And as a human being, kind of to interact with other people and to have a sense of purpose, to do something that gives you satisfaction, to do something well, a sense of achievement. Kind of the benefits of that, just in terms of your general well-being, to go on and do whatever it is you do after Street Cones is finished. Kind of it more than likely may not be anything to do with the arts or the creative sector, but whatever it is you go on to do, hopefully it gives you a step up in being able to achieve that and fulfill that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Craig.
Absolutely.
Another element of it as well, I know we've had our technical difficulties this morning, but the fact that these workshops are online, we've had participants saying that just being able to use online platforms like Microsoft Teams in the world we're in just now, that's becoming more and more important. So that kind of digital confidence as well is really worth building on, doing something that's a bit fun as well. Lovely. So we have a follow-up comment from Diane Hale, who says, thank you to Aberdeenshire and all the other local authorities using community sentence projects like this as an opportunity to raise awareness around really important issues. This to me feels much more beneficial to the community than the traditional types of unpaid work. Thank you, Diane. That's a lovely comment. Tony, do you maybe want to mention, I don't know if you've tried different types, but what's it been like? Do you want to just give another comment about your experience on working on something where you look at the issues?
That's, as I said before, I'm a great believer that identify a problem is half the problem. And I think if you could discuss it with people in an environment, you could mention a story to someone and they don't know if that story is true or not, but it's a way of sort of counselling in some respects, to be able to sort of open your mind and be able to talk to people about a storyline and just be able to develop it. And at the same time, subconsciously, I think you're developing yourselves as well. Getting back to the point that Anna made, and that is sort of getting used to that technology. Because at first I was thinking, oh, all these people I've never met before, and by what's going to happen. But once I got past that barrier, then I started reaping the rewards from it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. I've just noticed as well that I've given everyone Diane's follow-up comment before I've given you the question that came first. So that's just to spice up the morning for you. So Diane's original question was that she has enjoyed the Street Cones streams and watched Aberdeenshire's first one, Second Chances. And Diane is asking, will there be a third module and what will the theme be? So I think I'm perhaps best placed to answer that. Yes, there is a third module. It's actually ongoing. So we're currently building on a script which deals with themes of addiction, of family, and what you would do to support your family. So that's something that we're currently building through just now, through a bit of the oh so scary improvisation, as well as having a little bit of a dig around and research into some of these issues. So the next live stream that comes up will hopefully have some good research, some good resources as well, to look into issues of addiction. So that's our next kind of angle with our third module, which it's hard to believe that we're already onto a third module. I can't believe January. It feels like just a second ago and so long at the same time. But there we go. We have one last comment via email from John, who said, I finished my hours. I was a participant in another local authority, not Aberdeenshire, but I just wanted to highlight the other aspect of workshops I found really useful. There wasn't anything to do with the arts or creativity. It was the mindfulness and well-being work we did, breathing exercises and meditation tools that I've gone on to learn about on my own and continue using. So there we go. That's a range of stuff we do in Street Cones workshops, all just working on creativity, on looking inwards a little bit, and just different ways of coming together and seeing how we can build on ourselves and get that confidence. All right. So I think that is all of our questions for today. So apologies once again for the technical difficulties. We will have the video available so that you can go back and watch that once that's been put online. And I'll definitely be going back to this Q&A. There were so many fantastic points made. And so thank you so much to the panel. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'd also like to thank, of course, you, our audience, for tuning in and watching, and for your excellent comments and questions. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Craig, Jeff, Darren, and Tony, of course. Does anyone have any final comments they want to throw in before we end? No.
I guess, Anna, I guess it's to remind people that there is always somebody out there to support and help. So to an extent, it's about having the bravery to reach out and connect. And if you do that, then life will feel better almost immediately. There is always somebody at the end of a phone. There's always somebody available to talk to, and just to push that message really, really, really hard, so that actually we can make sure that people stay safe, particularly under stressful periods. That's all I'd want to say.
Absolutely. I think that's a very, very important note to end on. There's always someone there, and spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell the people you think are doing okay or not so okay. Maybe it's up to all of us to help spread that message that Jeff has so rightly put for us at the end. Thank you so much. All right. So if you would like to watch any more of our content, previous live streams, other videos, then please subscribe to our YouTube channel and switch on the updates. The links to all of our social media accounts are on our homepage at streetcones.org. That is streetcones.org. There we go. So on behalf of Aberdeenshire Community Justice, Street Cones, and our workshop participants, thank you so much again, and goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.
want my children to live a life like mine. So I faced my inner demons, one small step at a time, one small step at a time. I was a boy without belonging, a jigsaw piece that didn't fit. If someone shouted out the answer, then you know I didn't hear it. You know I didn't hear it. I'm not the man, I'm not the man I used to be. Gone are the days when all I could see was myself in the mirror, trying to break free, trying to break free. It's taken many years of feeling all alone, so many years of emptiness with no place to call a home, no place to call a home. Now I'm feeling so much stronger as my demons walked away. I think they finally realized they had nothing more to say, nothing more to say. I'm not the man, I'm not the man I used to be. Gone are the days when all I could see was myself in the mirror, trying to break free, trying to break free. So many days have passed now, and my life is still on track. And if them demons try returning, I'll have the strength to send them back. I'll have the strength to send them back. They'll never pull me down again, or ever cause me pain. I can see a brighter future and it's heading in my way. It's growing brighter every day. I'm not the man, I'm not the man I used to be. I'm not the man, I'm not the man I used to be. Oh, I'm not the man, I'm not the man I used to be. Gone are the days when all I could see was myself in the mirror, trying to break free, but now I've broken free.